When I look at my life right now and I ask myself, which political party has made my life worse? It's not the Republican Party. Locally speaking, the Democrats have complete control and they have nearly destroyed my family's livelihood. Okay, we are living in trash and squalor everywhere. And unless the Democratic Party actually acknowledge these issues and solve these issues, rather than stealing our taxpayer money and funneling it to their nonprofit friends, they keep doing this, they're going to keep losing.
We've got a little sot to start with of your reaction to when Trump won in 2016.
I have no respect for women who voted for Trump, okay?
Yeah, me too.
I think so poorly of them, and the reason why is because, look, I don't think that you're a single issue voter. I just think you're dumb, okay? I think you're fucking dumb. When you vote for someone who openly treats women like second-class citizens, who talks about them as if they're nothing more than a piece of meat, who has been accused of sexually assaulting them, who has been caught on tape talking about groping them and grabbing them by the pussy without consent, yeah, you're an idiot. You're an idiot.
So, Anna, have you moderated your view of Trump voters this time around?
To say the least. That video I am not proud of, I will say that. And, you know, I had a very emotional reaction to news that Trump won in 2016. I was totally blindsided by it. And to be quite frank, I think that attacking voters is one of the worst things you can do. These are our fellow Americans, regardless of who they vote for or what they think. In order for this great experiment in America to work, we have to respect each other. And so that was 8 years ago. I'd like to think that I've matured since then, and I hope that I can prove that maturity through the work that I do today.
You said 5 days before the election, you posted this, I think, to X, I don't support Trump. I also don't think it's helpful to call him a fascist or a Nazi. Those words actually mean something beyond not liking a candidate. I mean, I completely agree with you.
Some recent tweets by Anna. I don't support Trump. I also don't think it's helpful to call him a fascist or a Nazi. Those words actually mean something beyond not liking a candidate. I also don't think listening to or reading the perspective of conservative voters is a flaw or something I should feel ashamed of. That was about a month ago. Even as far back as July, Anna was pointing out the problems with the party. She says, I don't know, man. Maybe we just sit back and allow those dead set on losing be the losers they want to be. I just don't want to hear a shred of hyperventilating about Trump. Project whatever the F from the loser loyalists. They want this. They should revel in it.
I respected you for saying that because actually the over-demonization of Trump, all it did was help him and damage the left anyway. I mean, it was an act of self-harm because most reasonable-minded people went, well, hang on, Hitler killed 12 million people. What are you talking about? And if he was such a terrible fascist, why didn't he behave like a fascist for 4 years when he had the chance? And the truth is he didn't.
Because look, if we're just going to use fascist toward anyone we dislike, all right, then the word doesn't actually mean anything.
Okay, what do you want me to say, Anna? You want me to say wannabe dictator?
Sure, you can say wannabe dictator, but I don't even think he wants to be a dictator.
Of course he does. That's what you do when you lose an election and you go, oh, I got fake electors and I'd like to terminate the Constitution and bring out the tanks and use martial law against American citizens and shoot protesters. I mean, if that's not fascist, then I guess the word just shouldn't exist.
But was he able to do those things?
Trump's
his rhetoric is awful.
Okay, if you don't want to be called fascist, stop saying fascist things. It's not that hard.
Okay.
Not that hard. Oh, here, let me have dinner with.
Say what you will, but Anna must have the most patience of any human being alive. She's been at the Young Turks for 17 years. 17 years. Cenk has been her boss. Give this woman the nuclear codes because they cannot be tortured out of her if someone tried.
Nick Fuentes, who's a Nazi, Kanye, who's a Nazi, and let me say there's good people on the Nazi side. Oh, it could be pro-Confederate guys. Might be guys who are pro-slavery who are good guys. Let me do all of these things. Let me say that immigrants are poisoning the blood of our nation, a Nazi term that is only used in the past by Nazis, and then say I'm gonna ban Muslims, I'm gonna do this and this and this to all the other ethnic groups, and then go, oh, I can't believe you called me a fascist. No, he is a fascist. I'm very happy to call him a fascist.
All right. There.
All right. All right, I'm not gonna get back into it.
If you haven't already, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Really appreciate it.
There's nothing about Trump's first term which screamed fascism to me. And I felt that persistent attack and he's the new Hitler was just ludicrous.
Well, it's insulting for like the Jewish community that, of course, was victimized by Hitler. It kind of downplays or minimizes the severity and the brutality of Hitler and what he carried out. But, you know, I think that just to play devil's advocate, those who kind of use phrases or words like fascist in order to describe Donald Trump, you know, they're not using it in an academic sense. They're using it in regard to some of the, you know, authoritarian tendencies that we heard about regarding Donald Trump in his first term. And, you know, you can argue, well, there's a lot of hearsay. There's a lot of comments from disgruntled former administration officials who claim that Trump said these things behind closed doors. If you want to make that argument, that's fine. But even if
But there are so many examples of Trump not being authoritarian when he could have been. The COVID lockdowns, for instance, he gave that over to the states. He is in support of of Roe v. Wade and pushing that issue back to the states. Trump believes in federalism. He believes in the 10th Amendment. He's a businessman. He understands that things being tested state by state are the way to go. He does not believe in monarchy. He does not believe in rule from the top. He knows it doesn't work. He runs a huge organization. He has tons of employees. In the software world, it would be monolith versus microservices. It's clear that Trump believes the microservices approach is superior. The reason that they couldn't beat Trump with all of this hyperbole is that the stuff that they say isn't true to begin with, and people can see right through it.
let's give those individuals the benefit of the doubt and just assume that Trump did in fact say those things during closed door meetings. It still doesn't rise to the actual definition of a fascist, right? I mean, where are the brown shirts? You know, where is the militarized citizenry that's going to carry out, you know, Trump's dirty deeds? It's a type of hyperbole that I don't think Democrats, and I'm not talking about the voters, I'm talking about Democrats in positions of power, genuinely believed. I think what they did is use tactics of fear and division in order to accumulate votes and support in lieu of having an actual imagination of what this country could be if they implement policies that make the lives of ordinary Americans better. The Democrats have made a deal with the devil, and the devil is their corporate donors. And since their corporate donors want very specific things for the donations that they're providing to these politicians, and usually that's a policy that does not bode well for American workers, what Democrats tend to do is lean into tactics of fear, or they talk about culture war issues, right? They lean into the culture war. And every election cycle, they get more and more maximalist with what they claim they want to carry out on these culture war topics. And they've gone too far. And I think Americans have kind of fought back against them.
I think after this election, they know that they've gone too far. And that's why, as in one of my other videos that I uploaded about a week ago, I talk about how the left is going to try and steer things back to their core. They're going to try and argue for more socialistic policies. They're going to really hammer down the 1% and how the 1% is bad. We have to go after the 1%. We have to start taxing higher. It really is the only way that they're going to be able to outflank the right as far as populism goes is they're going to have to economically outflank them. They're going to have to do the 1% versus the 99%. And I do think that that is a real threat. If they're going to do this, I think it's going to take them about 8 years to win back a lot of the people that they lost to the Republican Party. But I do think that it's very possible for them to do so.
Was when you revealed you'd been sexually assaulted by 2 homeless people in LA in 2022. And you were accused of stigmatizing your unhoused neighbors, which was a staggering response to a woman revealing she'd been sexually assaulted. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I was walking my dog and there were 2 men coming toward me. But, you know, living in Los Angeles, there is a large homeless population and I had never been, you know, victimized by anybody before. So I didn't think much of it. As I was bending over to pick up my dog's mess, you know, one of them grabbed me by the hips and with an erection just started thrusting at me very violently. I was terrified. I was alone. I didn't have a weapon on me. And so, you know, it took a while for me to get over that because whether I like it or not, I have to walk my dog. Right. Sometimes I have to do it at night, right? And so I had to kind of think about that every single time I was taking my dog out to walk. And so I had just opened up about it on our show, not really thinking that it was going to lead to backlash. I wasn't even looking for sympathy. It It was on my mind, and I just talked about it. And it led to just this wave of, you hate homeless people, you're stigmatizing homeless people, don't call them homeless people, they're unhoused, which I don't even understand why unhoused would be better than saying homeless.
And by the way, these are the same people.
This is what the left likes to do.
Right,
they like to change the language instead of actually addressing the issue at hand. Yeah.
If you're a politician or a political commentator, 95% chance you've read 1984, so you should understand what is going on here. And from the top, to be changing definitions, even though you know that one of the most popular political novels of all time warns against this, you would think it would be a hint to don't do this, don't try and attempt to do this. The citizens aren't that dumb, especially with the internet, where we can see when definitions of things were changed. It really makes you wonder if earlier on in this country, the 1800s, the early 1900s, the 1950s, especially when there was only 3 TV stations, it makes you wonder how often this type of shit happened, how often definitions changed, how often the narratives were controlled. Who knows how many lies were told back then?
But I want to be clear about something. I think that this is a small but incredibly loud and influential faction of the Democratic Party. This is not indicative of all Democrats. This is not indicative of all Democratic lawmakers. This is a small group of activists who like to bully, who like to go to city council meetings, who like to go to various rallies and essentially be loud, be threatening, be aggressive until they get their way. And for far too long, the Democratic Party has been terrified of these little mobs of people, these little mobs of activists, and have basically just carried out what these activists want. And I just think that they need to be a little smarter than falling prey to the whims of various activist groups, because they are not representative of the majority of Americans.
Can somebody tell me in the comments what city this is behind her?
The majority of Americans, especially in a state like California, want homeless people to be housed, but they also understand that this issue is far more complicated than the housing first policy of throwing anyone who doesn't have a home into an apartment, right? Because the fact of the matter is we have severe mental health issues out on our streets right now, people who are struggling with severe drug addiction. Some of these people actually do have families to go to or homes to go to. They need a different type of service. They need rehabilitation, not harm reduction, where we're just passing out needles and crack pipes thinking that it's going to solve the problem. It has not solved the problem. It has made the lives of these individuals struggling on the streets far worse, and it has also made the lives of hardworking, tax-paying Americans in states like California a lot worse.
Yeah.
When I look at my life right now and I ask myself, which political party has made my life worse? It's not the Republican Party. Locally speaking, the Democrats have complete control, and they have nearly destroyed my family's livelihood. Okay, we are living in trash and squalor everywhere. And unless the Democratic Party actually acknowledge these issues and solve these issues, rather than stealing our taxpayer money and funneling it to their nonprofit friends, they keep doing this, they're going to keep losing. And I'm going to keep speaking out against them. I don't care how much they hate Trump. I don't care how naughty the Republicans are being. Right now, the people having a negative impact on my life is the Democratic Party, and they need to change their ways. When we say we want to change the status quo, it doesn't mean we want to live in anarchy. It doesn't mean that we want to have $24 billion of our taxpayer money in California stolen by these nonprofits. It means that we want working people to be rewarded for their hard work. We want affordable housing. We want better working conditions, higher wages, better health care. These are things that Democrats used to purport to want to do. They don't do any of it anymore. And so I'm done with them until they change their ways.
Yeah. You also got blowback when you posted, "I'm a woman. Please don't ever refer to me as a person with a uterus or a person who menstruates." How do people not realize how degrading this is? You can support the transgender community without doing this shit.
There was an excellent clip of Jeffree Star talking about the transgender issues and the pronouns. For those who don't know, Jeffree Star is a makeup artist, really big on YouTube in the last 10 years. I think he's actually gotten out of it, and he's doing yak farming, actually, in Wyoming. Let me see if I can find that clip.
I'm not into all the other bullshit. I think
What other bullshit?
the they and them.
Yeah.
And all that extra shit that we added during the pandemic because everyone was so bored on their fucking houses. They just started to make up more shit and more shit.
More stuff.
Yeah. That's why the conservatives like me, because I'm just real.
Yeah, you do have a conservative
you're not
vibe
they
to
and
you.
them. You're trans, you're male, or you're female.
And you're
And
standing on
people
that.
get so mad when I say that. How are you a they? What the fuck does that mean? It's stupid is what it is.
Yeah.
But you need someone like me that looks like me to say it. Because if you say it, it turns into you're homophobic, you hate trans people, you hate gays. And it's just how you feel. You don't hate anyone. You just think it's stupid.
I just have one question for Mike. What's my gender?
You identify as he/he.
Fuck yeah, bro.
All right. Was that
Hey, fuck yeah, bro.
was that right?
Yeah,
Was that
of course it
he/he?
is.
Okay.
I'm a dude. I love makeup. I love fashion. I've been doing this for so long now. These terms did not exist when I was a kid.
Look, the main point I want to make about the transgender community is that these are human beings,
Yeah.
okay? They deserve to be treated with respect and dignity.
I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value.
And when it comes to any issue that has a real impact on their lives, housing, employment, all of that, there should be protection for this community, and we should respect the fact that they're human beings. At the same time, there are some issues that arise where the rights of one group, in this case, the transgender community, kind of conflicts with the rights of another group, the rights of women. And what I think is important is that we actually have a real dialogue, a civil dialogue, about how we move forward in a way where both parties feel that they're being treated fairly and with dignity. I have a team of producers that help me produce the Young Turks daily. And I always refer to my team as, or like if I'm texting them about an element I need for a story, I'll always text with, hey guys, I need X, Y, and Z. Most of the people in my team are actually women. And so none of them are, I actually asked them, I'm like, are you guys at all offended that I say, hey guys? It's just kind of the way we spoke. People is, hey
But
guys.
who cares
and they're totally
anyway?
fine with it because guess what? Most people are fine with it.
Yes.
Most people don't care. I
Yes.
just want to go back to what I said earlier about the small, loud group
Yes.
of activists.
Yeah.
Just because they're louder doesn't mean that they're representative of the general population.
Yeah.
I really do think that it's up to these various entities, these various, governmental agencies to kind of take a stand. And I think in
agree.
some cases, our language does change, and I think it makes sense. But in some cases, it changes because you have activist groups pushing for it, and it doesn't make sense. So let's be a little smarter. Let's use our common sense.
Somebody accused me of being a Republican. It was Brian Tyler Cohen, I think. He said, you're obviously a Republican. Or Wajah Ali was one of them. And I said, look, I'm not a Republican. I'm somebody who identifies as liberal, but who has increasingly felt in recent years that I have absolutely nothing in common with modern day far left woke supposed liberals whose whole behavioral pattern is not remotely liberal. It's actually a form of modern day fascism, which is incredibly ironic given that they would say fascism is the one thing they hate most in the world. And
We've been seeing this a lot. In fact, in the last 5 years, people have moved to the right more than the left. I think there's a picture, see if I can find it here. Tweet right here. Every person in this photo was once a Democrat. Let that sink in. Donald was a Democrat, Robert was a Democrat, Tulsi was, Elon, and it just keeps going. The list just keeps growing.
I feel a bit like Bill Maher and people like that who have become more popular actually to conservatives because they said the same thing. And I'm kind of like that, where I would say I'm probably a centrist now. I don't identify as to the right or conservative, but I have nothing in common with the woke left at all. I find them preposterous people.
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel that way. I probably feel similar to you to some extent, maybe not as extreme. I don't refer to myself as a centrist per se, but I definitely feel far more independent now than I ever have in my life. Because you're right. I mean, you do look at the two political parties, dominant political parties in the United States, and I used to identify so strongly with what the Democratic Party represented, but as they have kind of devolved further and further down this like rabbit hole of maximalist policies for like very specific groups of people, and that's the other thing. I'm just so tired of constantly focusing on how our identities or our race, our gender, our sexual orientation, how different that makes us from one another. No, you're a working class American. You've got a lot more in common with an Asian working class American, a transgender working class American, a gay working class American than
Trump
you do
understood, isn't it?
with a black person who was chosen to be the head of a major Fortune 500 company. I probably have less in common with that woman than I would with a working class American from a different background.
Yes,
or
think
a
Trump,
white woman who's a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. I have less in common with her.
Totally agree. I think Trump brilliantly tapped into that. I think he recognized that. And the fact that so many Black Americans, Latino Americans, Jewish Americans, Muslim Americans, white Americans, the fact they all turned out to vote for him in such big numbers shows that he managed to smash through all the ethnicity and religious divides and everything else. And he just tapped into things they all cared about.
What's your take on Trump doubling his black vote, whether it's in Wisconsin or anywhere else?
I mean, I'm not necessarily surprised. I mean, I've been sounding the alarm to the Democratic Party has alienated black men. They have elevated black women above black men in a way that is untenable. I mean, black men and black women really don't vote at any different rates when it comes to the Democratic Party. And we know that former President Barack Obama just a couple of weeks ago scolded and chastised black men publicly, when the fact of the matter is, if black women are the mothers of the movement, so to speak, or the backbone of the Democratic Party, so are black men. Because black men are the most progressive male voting bloc in the United States of America. In 2016, black men supported Secretary Hillary Clinton by a clip of 81%, and white men 32%. So when it comes to chastising black men, rolling over on them, I mean, the black men in my life are not vibing with the Democratic Party. I got two conservatives that I love, and both of them are just not feeling the Democratic Party because they don't see themselves in the Democratic Party. And as for black men who want to rock with the Democratic Party, I mean, I was just at church this Sunday, family, and this young man his name is Chris. He just came back from the federal pen. He is an entrepreneur. He's trying to rebuild his life. Well, I'm old enough to remember how the Democratic Party wanted to paint felons as somehow a bad thing. People shouldn't have a second chance because they're trying to get at Trump. Meanwhile, back in the hoods, when you do that, you hurt black men, you hurt other men of color, and you hurt poor people writ large. And what this young man said to me, and he was in his 30s, he said, I do not see myself in the Democratic Party.
For some inexplicable reason, the Democrats put out this clip last night of Kamala Harris, which is, I can't even imagine the logic other than chucking her under a bus. Let's take a look.
I just have to remind you,
This is absolutely crazy.
don't you ever let anybody take your power from you. You have the same power that you did before November 5th. And you have the same purpose that you did. And you have...
Hold on. Let's see.
Have the same ability to engage and inspire. So don't ever let anybody or any circumstance take your power from you.
I mean, she just looked like a broken woman to me. This was the woman who was selling us joy, who looked utterly miserable, still talking in a kind of generalized word salad way, and also and talking nonsense because, of course, the Democrats just took a massive drubbing, and it's on her watch. So of course they're all going to feel that not as confident and strong as they were before. They need a radical rethink, I think, the Democrats. But it was kind of sad, wasn't it, that video?
I thought it was kind of funny. Like, I see myself as a 22-year-old at 3 a.m. at a bar talking to a best friend.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I sound like.
Yes.
Don't let anybody take your power away from you. So, like, okay, but...
I still believe in you.
I still believe in you, exactly. But putting that aside, there's a part of me that feels a little bad for Kamala Harris because I do feel that she was basically set up to lose, right? I mean, you have Joe Biden coming out of the gate saying that he's going to tap a black woman for his VP. When you do that, what it signals to the rest of the country is that, you're gonna pick a token to make a point, and it's not based on merit. And I think that's an issue, and it doesn't look good.
That's it for tonight, everyone. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please go ahead and do that and give this video a like, share it with your friends. We'll see you in the next one.